Arthurs on your right, Jim Davis on your left. Now, I was going to say one of the draws to playing Tron right now is that you get to main deck Relic of Progenitus, which is quite strong against Arclight Phoenix. Now, the Mono Red Phoenix deck, however, has some explosive draws that get around those Relics of Progenitus. And here we're going to see if Martial Arthurs can piece together something against Tron.
Yeah, Arthur as well is on the play. Davis just started with Mine into Chromatic Star. Arthur is going to work. Manamorphose, Fork Bolt, light up the stage. Going to exile a Soulscar Mage and a Mountain for next turn.
Yeah, Fork Bolt pairs super nicely with Light Up the Stage because it can knock off a 1 toughness creature, and then you can follow that up with the Light Up the Stage because you do the damage to the opponent as well.
Jim will use his star to make green mana, play a power plant, and then cast Sylvan Scrying, goes and finds a tower. Online for turn 3 Tron. Let's see exactly what Arthur has in store for him on turn 3, though.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of is incentivized to play the Mountain and the Soulscar Mage from the Light Up the Stage, but other than that, I'm curious what he's got. It looks like just a passing of the turn, and something like Karn, Wormcoil Engine, even a Giant Walking Ballista here could be quite good for Jim Davis having that 7 mana on turn 3.
And it looks like Jim actually has choices here. You know, there's the Wormcoil Engine in hand, or maybe it's an Ugin he can't cast just yet, but Chromatic Star, Wormcoil Engine, still a pretty good turn.
Yeah, Wormcoil. Oh, no, that's all she wrote. This Mono Red Phoenix deck without the card Arclight Phoenix, completely crippled by that 6/6 Death Touch and life-linking creature that is Wormcoil Engine. And even if you kill it, you get 2 more.
Lava Spikes versus Lifelinkers. It's not historically a good matchup for Lava Spikes.
Huh. Well, I don't really have much else to say. That's Tron. Hello, I'm a ragtime gal. Now, the sideboards here for each player, Jim Davis is going to have to go cutting his curve a bit. He's going to probably trim things like Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger, at least go down to 1 if he has 2 copies, which I believe he has 2. Most lists play 2. Maybe just trim some of his fat, bring in some anti-graveyard stuff, bring in some stuff like Thragtusk. You know, wants to be able to play around Blood Moon as much as possible, and that just means having cards whose curve is lower overall.
And this is actually a matchup that Martial Arthurs probably figures to be pretty good. Very fast, aggressive deck. He can usually take Tron down a peg just by getting onto the battlefield very quickly. He does have some Blood Moons in his sideboard. Are you interested in all 3 copies of that?
Normally I would say yes, but my versions of Mono Red Phoenix usually play Desperate Ritual, so you can occasionally turn to the Blood Moon. And of course it's going to be a great card against Tron, especially on the play. You know, if they don't have a Disenchant for it, it's just going to buy you a lot of time. So I'm 100% bringing in no matter what. It is just less effective without those Desperate Rituals. And even if he's able to win Game 2 as Martial Arthurs, he's going to have some trouble in Game 3, even with that Blood Moon on the draw.
Here's an interesting element of Arthur's sideboard. Frequently with a Mono Red deck, you see maybe a Smash of Smithereens, maybe an Abrade. You kind of like to have 1 copy of that against Tron, but he's actually just registered 3 Shatter Storms.
So I actually covered Martial Arthur's top 8 match from SCGCon Winter last year, where he ultimately lost, I believe, with Mono Red Phoenix to, I want to say, it was either Andrew Jessup or Austin Collins, one of the players on Karkland Ironworks combo, and it was pretty interesting because I saw his sideboard and I recall distinctly it was just 3-3-3-3-3-3, and you don't see that a lot in Modern, but in the decks you do see it in are the decks where there's not a lot of card manipulation, and you don't get to see that many cards in your deck, you know. And here, you know, Marshall has a clean 3-3 all down the line. Dragon's Claw, obviously very strong against Burn. Surgical Extraction, very good against Phoenix as well as Graveyard decks. Shatterstorm, which is going to be the preferred disenchant effect of choice out of Mono Red just because of how powerful Welding Jar is in those Grixis War Prison decks. Something like a Braid just doesn't cut it anymore.
Yeah.
And then, of course, 3 copies of Blood Moon, and then 3 Rending Volley, which I'm honestly not the hugest fan of Rending Volley. I like the move away from that and Izzet Phoenix in favor of Flame Slash because of its versatility in other matchups.
Sure, yeah, that makes sense. And it also makes sense what you're saying there. You're playing this Light Up the Stage deck. When you find some kind of sideboard card off that, you want it to be the best one every time. Right.
I mean, that's certainly true as well. And, you know, when I say this deck doesn't have manipulation, you know, it obviously plays Faithless Looting. It has Manamorphose. It has Light Up the Stage. It has even Tormenting Voice, right? But, you know, the cards that you're usually digging for are very specific. You don't, and also the way your deck is constructed, you don't really have time to just cast them digging for sideboard cards. You need those to be proactive, dealing a lot of damage with your 1-mana creatures. And so having 3 of any given card just means that you're pretty likely to hit it, but you also just get a 5 card sideboard instead of a 4-card sideboard if you play a 4 of any one of them.
I played a bit of Mono Red Phoenix when I was trying to figure out, just ways to win on the deck red sheet. And I always just really hated having Tormenting Voice in my modern deck. Martial Arthurs is sticking with it. I kind of thought the Light Up the Stage might be the card that lets you push that out of the deck. But 3 Tormenting Voice there. Still hanging on to that one. The extra discard outlet, he's going to value that pretty highly.
All right, looks like both players here are going to go back for a mulligan. Jim taking quite a bit of time to figure out his sideboard plan. This Mono Red Phoenix deck plays similarly to the Izzet Phoenix deck, but doesn't quite have the same vulnerabilities, and Jim trying to compensate for that, maybe trying to lower his curve just a little bit more to interact with those Soulscar Mages and Monastery Swiftspears.
Well, here's a difference that it makes sense that you would think about. Against Izzet Phoenix, you probably don't want to do something like Nature's Claim one of your artifacts to gain life.
Yeah.
That becomes a pretty reasonable line against the Mono Red Villa deck.
Oh, that's certainly true. On top of that, something like Dismember is quite good against Izzet Phoenix because Sting the Ice is so important. But in this matchup against the 1-mana creatures, I think Dismember is quite bad.
Yeah. So both players did mulligan to 6. Arthur is underway with the Soulscar Mage. Jim Davis is going to play Urza's Mind and Chromatic Star. Second Mage for Arthur's. We'll see if there's a second land. There's not.
Yeah, that's unfortunate for Marshall. That stumble here. Those 2 Soulscar Mages are quite good in the opener, but without a second land drop, there's a chance that Jim's able to just put a stranglehold on this game in a hurry. He doesn't have Tron yet, but found Ancient Stirrings off of the draw and found another Tron piece, so if he can find that other one, he might be able to cast something like Wormcoil Engine as early as turn 3.
Tron finds a way.
Yeah.
Why would you not have it?
All right, Ian Malcolm, come on.
That's a good reference, man. I'm happy about that one.
No, that's a nice one.
I don't care what you say.
That's fine. So Jim actually has a Graph Digger's Cage here, as well as a Chromatic Sphere, and he's trying to figure out what to play. The safe play is Graph Digger's Cage because if Martial Arthur draws a land, there's a chance he goes Manamorphose into Faithless Looting and blah, blah, blah. He gets back some Phoenixes, and that's pretty bad for Jim because it does a lot of damage. But that Graph Digger's Cage here going to be the play, and with a second Phoenix picked up, those are going to go to the graveyard. An attack for 4 from Marshall's going to put Jim down to 15, but still no second land.
Yeah, second Phoenix, good. Against Graph Digger's Cage, not so good. No second land, really bad. Here's Wormcoil Engine.
That
handshake. Thanks for playing.
That is.
Martial Arthur's
Sit
gonna
down,
fall to
Marshall.
6-2. Jim Davis 7-1 on Mono Green Tron. Not a deck that's gotten that much discussion.
Just comes.